does it take to be a master? Determination, craftsmanship, creativity, obsession. Why? For the love of chocolate. Excellence by the Lindt Master Chocolatier.
Hello, my name is Thomas Schnetzler and I'm one of the Lindt Maître Chocolatiers. Look, Lindt is truly a special company. We have been making chocolate since 1845, so that's 180 years of chocolate making passion and know-how. We are also one of the very few large chocolate companies that actually make chocolate from bean to bar. That means that we are actually sourcing cacao beans directly from farmers. So we work with close to 120,000 cacao farmers directly and actually source the cacao from there and then actually make the chocolate from the beginning, from the cacao bean through to the finished products, all in-house. That just gives us full control over every single step in the process, really ensuring that the quality of our chocolate is where we actually need it to be as well. Now, interestingly as well, did you know that Lindt really revolutionized the making and more importantly, the tasting of chocolate as well? Like Rodolphe Lindt invented a process and a machine called the conche back in 1879. So before chocolate was conched, it was actually dry and brittle and you actually had to chew it. So it's not something that you could place on your tongue and it would actually melt. So really only his process, which was a heavy roller that's gone forward and backwards through the chocolate mixture, allow chocolate to be creamy and melt fully on your tongue. And since then, every chocolate maker around the world has taken on this process and every chocolate is conched. So there's a little bit of Lindt chocolate making know-how in every piece of chocolate as well. Now, of course, what you also need to make great chocolate is great people. And we're very lucky. We have a great team of people working for us here in Australia. And really one of the amazing things with Lindt is that we really are a global family. So a lot of our team work directly with our global head office in Zurich, Switzerland, or of course with counterparts all around the world as well. And this is really all to work towards one goal. Our motto and our goal is always to enchant the world with our chocolate.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Debbie, for that introduction. Here I stand. This is a huge occasion for me, the child that was told to be seen and not heard. So this is a big step forward for me, and I'm so proud to be here with you all today and to share with you the transformation and the impact we've had through the LSI program. Not only to me personally, my peers, our team, and our organization. So as Thomas mentioned in his video, that it takes a great team to enchant the world with chocolate. And at Lindt, we have 545 people, which equates to about 300 FTE. We've taken 278 of our team members through the LSI program. And despite a very tough environment, we've performed relatively well, increasing our CAGR by 6%. We've expanded our operations into New Zealand by opening 2 retail stores, and we've promoted 73 of our people. Now, our journey from good to great started in 2020 when I had discussions with Michael Shai, our CEO at the time, and we discussed organizational development and leadership. And we engaged with our executive team, and I'm very proud to say there was very limited resistance to change. Yes, there were questions, why do we want to change something that's so good? And we did have a good culture, but we wanted to move from good to great. And to enchant the world with chocolate and be fit for the future, we needed to empower our people and to be inspiring leaders. So we had some information on hand, and that was in the form of our employee engagement survey. And I know that this is not a culture survey, but it definitely provided us with some insights. We had good scoring when it came to job satisfaction. However, that was a stagnant score. It had been around that number for several years. We also we reviewed what work climate was like, and under that banner, it was about praise and recognition for good work. It was about a good working environment, but also conflict resolution. So there's some low-hanging fruit in that basket because it shouldn't be too difficult to give praise and recognition to people. But at the same time, having difficult conversations don't come easy. And collaboration, which is key for every business, was sitting at 65, and we needed to see some improvements. So when we did our pulse survey at the end of last year, we can see that we are on track to making some changes. And our senior leaders were instrumental in giving us feedback. Firstly, they wanted us to invest in sustainable leadership development. We had other programs in place that did not drive lasting and behavioral change. They also told the executive team to stop changing the goalposts, to block in some time for checkpoints rather than waiting to get to the end of a project or something that was major in the business to then change the goalpost. And they wanted cross-team collaboration, a team that worked better together. So we decided to take on some advice from Robyn, who DB mentioned earlier. She's our People and Culture Manager, and she was tasked with going to find the ideal organizational and leadership support that we might need. And Robyn introduced us to the LSI program. And there were many reasons why we decided to go with this program, and one of the first reasons was getting an insight to our personal thinking styles and our behavior, our leadership behavior. It was understanding the impact we were having on others, that ripple effect, and making an impact that was positive in our organization. We wanted to lead with clarity, empower our people, and we wanted a program that we could measure, and one that linked very much to our Lindt values. So our Lindt values, they guide the way we think and act, and they underpin everything we do at Lindt. The LSI constructive styles fitted perfectly with our Lindt values, and we saw that as a way forward. So change starts at the top. We set the tone as the executive team, and we shape the culture for the rest of the organization. We walk the talk, and others are more likely to engage. And if the EC team are aligned and create consistent decision-making and messaging, then we set ourselves up for success. Because change starts at the top, it cascades faster and more effectively through the business. So our journey, what you're seeing here is our ideal leader. And at our workshop with Dominic Gawley, our human synergistics consultant, he tasked the executive team to form our ideal leader circumplex. And so we did. And we had discussions around this and what was challenging us. And we found that there were some consistencies across the executive team in that we were in too much of the detail, we were being pulled into problem solving, even the most minor problems, and we constantly took the monkey and we put it on our back. We welcomed it. And we needed to empower our people. In the next part of that workshop, we started to face our reality. What was our LSI and our LSI2? How did we show up? And we came up with a list of excuses when we started to see our reality. And they were, it's just my personality, it's how I've always been. It's only like this because I really need to have the pressure on me right now, and so I behave this way. So we look for excuses for our behaviors. It's the nature of my role. It requires me to be this way. To get results, this is what I need to do. But it was very clear when we saw the LSI2 and how others were receiving us that we needed to make some change. And so we made a commitment as an executive team that we would model the constructive styles. that we'd invest in our development and continuously improve. We'll hold ourselves and each other accountable. And we'll actively listen, because when you hold others accountable, it means that you're getting feedback or you're receiving feedback at some point. We'll actively listen and foster that open communication. And we will empower our senior leaders so that they can inspire and guide their teams effectively. So for me, I'm going to take you on my little personal journey, because when I met with Dominic and he provided me with my debrief, I was curious. I wanted to understand my behavior and my thinking style. And something he said to me just resonated and it kind of stuck. He said, what are the costs and the trade-offs? And so I went on a little bit of a reflection. Why did I have a heightened sense of responsibility, of commitment, of ownership, of accountability? Why was this? And so there's two stories I will share with you, and they're very personal to me. I started school at the age of 6. I'm a child to a single parent who I love immensely. And it's difficult when you're a single parent. So on my first day of school, I was super excited. I was in my fresh, crisp uniform and my shiny shoes. I was thrilled to go to school. And my mum took me down to the bus stop, and we lived on a very busy main street with buses going in to all locations. And so Mum explained to me that this day she was taking me into school, but I need to be observant for tomorrow and know what bus to get. And I should look out for children in a similar uniform as I was to get on that bus. And we did. We got on the bus together, and I was super thrilled, and Mum said to me, pay attention, be observant of your surroundings. And we got off at the school, and my mum said to me, there's 2 school gates at the school. You need to make sure that you exit at this one, because when you come out, you need to be prompt, and you need to cross the road and get the bus home. You don't need to panic about any other buses. There's only one bus coming from this school towards home. And when you get to the line match factory, you press the bell and you get off at the next set of lights. Actually, she wouldn't have said lights because I'm from South Africa. She would have said robots. And so she also gave me a little purse. It had little white beads on it. And in that purse was my bus fare. That was my bus fare to see me home. Because as you know, being a single parent, you can't be there all the time. And so I found my way back home. And the next year, a neighbor living, I think, 1 street back asked if I could please take their daughter to school. So there I was, taking someone else, being responsible, getting them safely to school and back. And the year after that, I had to take their little brother to school. So I didn't think too much of it. And when I think back, I don't remember it being a challenge. So that was one of the stories. And I'll fast forward to years later. I'm living and working in Johannesburg, and I just accepted a post to start at one of my former employers. And I would be one of the first non-white people to be employed by the company. And that was a huge responsibility for me. Nobody asked me to take that on. I took that on myself. Because being the first non-white person to work in that company meant that I was paving the way for others. And to do that, I made sure that I understood everything that was required of me. I was dotting my I's, crossing my T's. I needed to hold on to that job. I needed to show that I could be reliable and responsible and that I could grow and I could learn. But I was also not going to accept anyone being disrespectful to me. So I had to have those important conversations as well. And so those were the 2 things that came to me when I was processing all of this. Because I wondered then, how was I showing up for others? I mean, those are all good traits to have, that sense of responsibility and commitment, etc. But when it's heightened, how does that show up? Well, it shows up in an individual that had been working for Lindt for 27. I'm there for 27 and a half years. And full disclosure, I'm currently transitioning to retirement. And at that point in time, when I reflected, it was, wow, I'm controlling everything because I set it up. I know how it works. I know how it operates. So every contract, every variation, every job ad, every external communication and internal communication was vetted by me and had my seal of approval. There were some definite costs there. So I needed to take responsibility for that, and I needed to have sustainable action in place to support my primary team as well as my HR team. To empower them, I needed to build capability and self-assurance. And one of the first things I did was implement the delegation tree. This was to empower the team to make decisions. We were very clear on what were leaf, branch, trunk, and root decisions. And this allowed for faster decision-making. I worked collaboratively with my team. It wasn't a top-down thing. We discussed it. We made sure that people were comfortable with the change. And this reduced silos, it increased connectivity, and we were in it together. We also had to look at the optimal support we could give the business, and that was to change the team structure by providing clarity of roles and responsibilities to the business. Now, it's good to empower people, but we don't just leave them dangling. It's about identifying the skill gaps, and also with the change, providing coaching, being available, and guidance so they could move forward in confidence. And they are geared to be solutions-focused rather than seeking constant approvals. Change needed to be transparent because everyone needed to have a voice and everybody needed to be heard. And that builds trust and understanding. So as an executive team, we would have all taken a part to explore and to make changes. We shared with each other what worked for us in the hope that we could all bond together and make a significant impact. So earlier on, I showed you the LSI-1 description of 2020. And we're very pleased when we look at 2024 and we did our LSI-1 again, that we are on the road to transform the way we think, the way we behave, and the way we work together. There's still a way to go, but we're on track. Our LSI-2, this was December 2020, and moving forward into 2024, we're moving from intention to impact. We're pulling in those defensive styles and starting to see a more constructive behavior across our organization. And what are our senior leaders saying? The senior leaders are telling us that collaboration has improved, decision-making is happening at a faster pace, that they're feeling empowered. And I'm very proud of the progress we've made through the LSI program, and we are committed to continue that journey. I'd like to introduce you to Robyn Rodrigues. As I said, she's our People and Culture Manager, and she's been a driving force in embedding the LSI program from all our senior leaders all the way through the business. And Robyn brings a lot of passion and commitment to shape a stronger culture. Her dedication and leadership has been instrumental in turning the LSI program into a lived experience across our organization. So please welcome Robyn.
Thank you, Freda. That was a wonderful introduction for me. And as you can see, we've made a significant impact, and it did start at the top. Today, I'm really excited to share with you our leadership journey. I'm a really fortunate position because for the last 5 years, I've worked with an amazing group of individuals and teams whose sole purpose is to enchant the world with chocolate. Now, it's really hard every day to wake up and enchant the world to chocolate, let me tell you. And when people come to you and say, oh, chocolate, you must love working at chocolate. Yeah, we do. But it's a bit like overindulgent. Dominic often comes to the office and sees an abundance of chocolate and goes, oh my God, you must be putting on 5 kilos. We do. So we warn everybody as soon as they start, 5 kilos is coming, you can work on it later on. When we first started our LSI journey, we had a very clear objective. It was just to take us from good to great. It was clearly that's the only perspective that we wanted. And across the Lindt leadership experience, we understood that it wasn't consistent. There was different leadership styles all across the business. There was ones who were very red, we were very green, and there was a few blues scattered amongst it. But predominantly, we were a very green organisation. Capability varied. Some leaders were thriving. We had a really high skill set, but there was definitely a bit of inconsistency there, and some were challenged in having difficult conversations. Tools existed, but every department was using a different tool and a different leadership model, and everybody had the best theory. So we needed to be very clear, and we needed to get a really connected approach. We lacked a shared definition of what great leadership looked like. You know, both commercially, whether it be culturally or behaviourally, we were all doing something different, and it wasn't working for us at all. Most importantly, we were not having honest conversations. We were a green organisation who shied away from having honest, constructive conversations. We were being told repeatedly that psychological safety was missing, and it was holding us back from our performance and exceeding and doing well. And we knew that that was going to hold us back in the future if we wished to enchant the world with chocolate going forward. So we knew we needed to create alignment. We needed to get very clear clarity on what our people needed to achieve and what our leadership looked like, and we also needed to have a really consistent capability across our business. And that was at every level, not just at one level, it was at every level, from the EC all the way down to our store retail managers. So when you're doing cultural change, sometimes you'll actually see a lot of resistance because it makes people feel uneasy in the gut, and it makes them feel like, oh, no, you've got this new tool that you want us to use. We were really fortunate in Lindt. We didn't see resistance. We actually saw adoption. We actually saw that people that were willing to take it on and understood the journey, because we were very clear on the journey that we wanted to be on, that we wanted to actually create greater people capability and leadership, and people came on board with us. Change brought curiosity. Our LSI gave leaders the space for reflection and insight. It told them how they led, and it also was able to show them what their behaviours had on others and how they impacted others. Now, people may say when you're very red, and we have some very red people in our organisations, you can't not know how you impact others. You can't not know that sometimes you make them feel unwhole, and sometimes that you leave them crying. But generally, there were people within our business who were very highly read, who had no idea that was the impact that they had, nor was it their intention. So the LSI helped us there. Conversations became more deep and more meaningful, and we stopped shying away from them. Data was really key, and that was a key why we took this tool. There's lots of LSI 360 tools out there that you can use, but actually we wanted something that we could measure our progress, and the LSI and human synergistics were able to give us that. And momentum built naturally. LSI worked because it was practical, it was personal, and it aligned with our Lindt values, which was really fundamentally important. We didn't want a tool that was going to sit on the sideline. We wanted something that linked through to our values and who we were as an organisation. So it was clear that traditional training wasn't enough. We had done lots of training in-house. We had done lots of training. We got other organisations in to train our people. But we realised that we needed something that was a bit more powerful and lasting and was embedded into our culture. So we needed a framework that shifted our behaviours from, not just built knowledge, because we had a really high skill set within our business. Our teams are really outstanding at what they do in their job, but we needed to create self-awareness, and we needed to create our leaders to have a powerful message all the way through our business and to be consistent so they knew what they got every time. We needed an alignment. We needed a tool that understood our values, our strategy, and our ambition. And that's what Human Synergistics did for us. It was a tool that reflected who we were. And at Lindt, we are premium, we are people-focused and performance-driven. And we don't make an apology for that. We actually want to strive, because our goal is to enchant everyone's world with chocolate. And to do that, we need to be performance-driven. So we didn't shy away from the fact that performance and outcomes was important. It needed to integrate into everything that we did. So it couldn't just sit, as I mentioned before, on the sidelines. It had to be woven into all of our development, all of our workshop, all of our team buildings, all of our conversations, whether it be at an executive level all the way down. And people like store retail managers had to have the comfort of walking into our CEO's office and saying, I want to challenge you because I don't actually agree with X, Y, and Z, or help me understand. And they'd be comfortable that they were able to do that. So it was really, really important that it was built into every leadership moment that we had. And when our CEOs, you know when you get CEOs in a big room or the executive team and you go, okay, so what do you think we should do? And it's just like deafening silence. That's what happened. But what we wanted was that deafening silence to actually open up a floodgate and actually have people who are on the coalface of our business to actually say, you know what, we could do this better and this is what it looks like. And our EC appreciated that and they were hungry for it. So that was a really important piece. So as Freda mentioned, our journey started in 2020 with the executive team. They were the first ones to kick off and Dominic, our consultant, took us through us, which we're really, really pleased of. The following year, we took all of our senior leaders through the process. And then in 2022 and 2023, we took the remainder from our retail store managers, production leadership, and so to our merchandisers, area managers, all the way through the program. So pretty much we had sealed off everyone by the end of 2023. But it couldn't stop there. We needed that every new employee who came on board needed to understand our business. They needed to understand what leadership looked like and what our expectation was and how it linked to our values. So every new employee who starts with Lindt, after 6 months, they will also take them on the LSI leadership journey. We also, in 2024, as Freda just proudly showed you, our executive team did a remeasure. So what happens this year? I'm going to be really pleased to show you our senior leadership team, who we remeasured in 2025. And then after that, at the back end of this year, we're going to do OCI with Human Synergistics and their support. So take us on to the next step of our leadership journey. So LSI gave us valuable insights. And by valuable insights, it wasn't just a tool that we used, it was actually telling us we were a green organisation who were afraid to have honest conversations, who wouldn't challenge the status quo. That meant one of our values, being innovation, was being hampered. It also meant that our other entrepreneurship, which is another one of our values, was being hampered, and we needed to change that. So it supported us on our journey of developing targeted workshops. So we developed a lot of workshops around radical candor, management versus leadership, what it looked like, having difficult conversations, and they happened throughout our business. And I'm really proud to say that even our EC sat on those in workshops, and that was really important because it showed that they were also on the journey with us on their leadership journey. We also linked all of our online learning. So we created some online modules that showed our values and what our values meant. And then we linked that to what Human Synergistics, our constructive style leadership also, and how they meshed in, because that was really, really important. We introduced the Lindt Mastery Program. So the Mastery Program was a 12-month program that is very much LSI, GSI, and we can bring people together and we actually take them on a 12-month journey of what leadership looks like throughout Lindt. So we took the senior leaders in 2023. I am so proud that in September, so on the 9th of September, our first lot of 24 leaders will actually be presenting back to the EC. And they will be presenting their LSI journey, what they've learnt in the Mastery Program, as I said, closely linked to all of our human synergistics things that we've learnt. They'll be presenting back to the EC. And we now have the 2025 group just about to kick off. The other thing is that, as Freda said to you earlier, we weren't good at recognition. We were ad hoc. Some teams were brilliant at it. And some teams, if it sounds weird, were over. They said thank you and congratulations and you were brilliant and all of those things for everything. And so it sort of got diluted in those teams because like everyone, you showed up for work, you got congratulations, you're here today, woo! So we really needed to look at how we would do that and how we would embed that because our people were telling us we weren't good. The other thing they were also telling us is we don't celebrate what didn't come off really well. What we do is we celebrate all the high victories and we high-five ourselves, but sometimes a lot of work and energy goes into projects, which we all know, that don't come to fruition. And we need to celebrate those and look at what we learn from those. So we created an annual award, so it's called the Mastery of Chocolate Reward and Recognition Program. It's an annual reward process that measures our 5 values. So there are 5 awards. And then it's peer nominated. It happens throughout the year. They send through, we have cards that we give out, and they recognise peers and leaders, whether they be EC all the way down to our casuals can win these awards, and they're actually at every level of the business. And that's been a fundamental change for us as well. So how far have we come? So let me show you a little bit of our journey for the senior leaders. This was our senior leaders in 2021. This was our senior leaders in March 2025. And this is their self-description. We've created a mind shift. For those who embraced the program early, they became our change champions. They were what Derek Shriver would describe, if anyone's seen that TED Talk, the lone nut. They were the ones that were driving the force, and people were looking at it, and they were inspiring others around them, and they were demonstrating behaviours that we loved across the business, and people were emulating that. And the others started to notice. We could see and feel the change. So this is how the description of our senior leaders in 2021 and through to 2025. From good to great is a journey. So people say, when Freda mentioned before, oh, but we're a great organisation. When I presented to the EC, the very first saying, let's do this program, they were very much, oh, but we're already great. Great's a continuous thing because you put out an objective and go, this is where we're going to get to. But once you get to that, you're good again. And you need to be in a continuous journey of striving for greatness. It's really, really important. We've already come so far, and we understand we still have some work to do, as you can see. But we're at an exciting part of our journey because we're just getting started. We actually can see momentum now, and we're starting to roll with that momentum. So a bit like that lone nut video, everyone's sort of jumping on board. So where to next? Human Synergistics OCI, which will support us to shape how we work, strengthen how we lead, and carry 180 years of Lindt magic forward. Because when how we work truly reflects what we value, we don't just make chocolate. We bring Lindt's value, Lindt's purpose of enchanting the world to chocolate to life. Not just for today. Our goal is for future generations. So long after I'm gone, I hope we are enchanting the world with chocolate. And it be Lindt. And as Thomas said, there's a bit of Lindt in every chocolate. So remember that, Cadbury. I'm looking forward to working with Dominic and Human Synergistics over the coming years on our leadership journey with the OCI. I know it's a long partnership and it's a committed partnership for us, and we are dedicated to driving, building high-performing teams so we can, every day, enchant the world with chocolate. So thank you for having me today, and hopefully I'm going to be up in a few years' time to present our OCI journey.